Good afternoon, learners and teachers from the Western Cape, and I believe there are also teachers from the other provinces and learners. Welcome to this grade 11 telematic session. I trust that you are going to enjoy the session, so I want you to just kick off your shoes and untie your hair and just sit back and relax, and just please let us know where you are tuned in so that we can acknowledge your presence. This afternoon, I'm being joined by my co-pilot, Dominique Pirang. Dominique, welcome, and just like to say a few words to the learners quickly.
Thank you, Mr. Momberg. As you all know, I am Dominique Pirang, an educator from Goodwood College in the Metro North in Cape Town. A shout out to all our grade 11 learners that hopefully will be tuning in today.
Thank you, Dominique. Learners and educators, yes, once again, please, we do not want you to write down any of the content from the screens. If you don't have a copy of the resource booklet, the grade 11 one, please send me an email at ldmomberg@gmail.com, ldmomberg@gmail.com, and you'll also find the resource booklet on the WCED e-portal, wced.eportal.co.za. Again, please let us know where you're tuned in. The WhatsApp number is 083-792 083-792-1239, 083-792-1239. And we'd like to acknowledge your presence. Dominique, we've got a packed afternoon ahead of us. Could you just briefly go through the items that we'll be covering today?
Right, so grade 11 learners, today we specifically focus on production. What we definitely need to know is the term and the meaning production function. We will need to define production management, the various different types of production systems, and definitely we will be zooming in on the costs, such as total cost, fixed, variable costs, the various calculations linked to that in order to determine the selling price, profit, and definitely we will be discussing the break-even analysis and the break-even point calculation.
Ms. Pirang, that is a mouthful.
Definitely, jam-packed show today.
Indeed. I'd like to acknowledge the presence of learners at Blackheath High School, and they indicated they don't have the booklets. Blackheath, kindly contact your district office, the subject advisor there, and they will certainly make sure that the learners do get a copy of those booklets. Learners, by now you should know that your grade 11, as a matter of fact, your grade 10, 11, and 12 curriculum covers 4 main topics. And these main topics are business environments, business ventures, business roles, and business operations. So everything that's done or taught by your teacher resorts under one of these 4 main topics. The topic we're going to cover today is the production function. And as you can see, the production function resorts under business operations. Now, very important, whenever you are assessed in business studies, you will have to answer different cognitive levels of questioning. The first one, in any assessment task, there should be lower order questions. So what do we require you to do there? You should be able to define and discuss, to name and to list. The middle order question, you should be able to explain, to calculate, to distinguish, to differentiate. And then you get your higher order questions. That is where you are required to give your opinion, to comment, maybe to advise, maybe to recommend. So it's important, teachers, that you do expose your learners to these different types of questions as you consolidate and revise the content with them. Now, the content map simply shows you that, whatever we do in grade 11, it's not done in isolation. We had some background or some foundation being laid in grade 10 when we did the business functions. And Dominique, those business functions.
At the top of my head now?
No, yeah, those 8 functions. I'm sure you can just
general management,
sing it off.
administration, public relations, human resources, marketing, finance, to name but a few.
Yes.
But we're specifically zooming in on production.
Absolutely.
And in grade 10, they were taught definitely the 8 business functions, but in grade 11, we specifically zoom in on production.
Yeah.
And looking further into grade 12, we then look at the quality in all 8 the functions, as well as the success and failure.
Absolutely. So learners, the production function is not done in isolation. We did some work in grade 10, and we're going to carry on in grade 12 with production. Speaking of production function, as an introductory comment, what would the production function entail?
Making. That's the first word that pops to mind. It's making. Yesterday, many of you perhaps made breakfast for Mother's Day breakfast, and that entailed making. So you had eggs, you had all your raw materials, and perhaps it ended up into an end product or a semi-finished product of an omelette.
Absolutely, yeah.
Right? So with that, production is definitely making. It is the production of making a good or a service. Definitely we are using raw materials as the input so that we have a good quality output. I'm just saying, if the raw materials, Mr. Momberg, is of poor quality, we can assume that the end product or the final product is also going to be of poor quality.
Absolutely.
Hence, if it is of a good quality, then we also make the assumption that the end product will be of good quality. I want to say again, if the inputs are of good quality, the end product will be of it too.
And a simple example would be another word for production is manufacturing.
Definitely. And that takes us to the secondary industry.
Absolutely. And so if we look at baking a cake, if you've got rotten eggs, your cake will be...
It's going to smell bad. You shouldn't have put it in the first place, which means you needed to assess
Absolutely.
the input, the raw material. So with that, grade 11 learners, we need to establish that if we want quality products, because we are consumers too, right, that we need to get raw materials of good quality to ensure that while manufacturing, that our end product will also be of good quality too.
And it simply means that there should be a close working relationship between the purchasing function and the production function.
And also the financing.
Because they must make the money available.
Yes,
To
for
ensure-
the raw materials.
Yeah, to ensure that we get quality raw materials.
Yes.
Okay, cool. Another term, production. What do that entail?
Definitely making the production process, making sufficient or making a product which is either finished, ready to be consumed, or a semi-finished product which is sometimes halfway produced, or we just need to add a little bit extra on at home. Ultimately, as consumers, whether it's a finished good or semi-finished good, we want quality products. And part of the production is changing the raw materials either into a finished or semi-finished good.
I like the word that they use. It's a process of converting.
Yes.
Actually, conversion taking place. So if you look at the example of the cake, we've got the egg, the flour, the sugar. What else do you use? Do you use cocoa?
Yeah.
And those are all raw materials, and you all mix it together and you put it in the oven, and an hour
After
later...
45 minutes, yeah.
It's 45. Okay, I normally let it bake for an hour. But 45 minutes later, those raw materials has been converted into something completely different.
Definitely.
And so I like that last bullet also there, that goods are finished goods when they are ready to be consumed by the consumer.
Yes. So
And
which
so-
means it's ready to be eaten
It's ready to be eaten, and
or ready to be used.
when it's in the shop, it's ready to be used.
Yes.
Depending on whether it's going to be used as a raw material or not.
Definitely.
We've got in Dewey Secondary in Mossel Bay. They present there with their teacher, And they say they are enjoying this session already. Learners, again, please let us know where you are tuned in. And later on, we'll ask you some questions. I hope you've got your calculator ready. Remember, Ms. Parang alluded to the fact that we're going to do some calculations. It will be required from you to do calculations, but you cannot use your cell phone. Do you know that?
Not in the exams.
Not in the exam.
But if I'm doing homework.
I would say if you're going to do it right and practice with a calculator. It could just be that you enter the exam room and you don't know how the calculator works.
That's why the school should have read the exam rules and your teacher should have prepped you in class on how to use it and incorporate it.
Absolutely. Production management. Ms. Parang, what does that entail?
It's the process. Before I even get to the process, it's actually a job. It's a career that learners can study into. A production manager, it's a title that people have. So it's ensuring that the production process is efficient and, most importantly, effective.
And so that there are no wastage, that there are no spillage?
Zero defects, because we need to use our time and resources optimally.
Yeah.
We need to account for that.
Yeah.
And from a business point of view or perspective, I don't want no money wasted at all. So when I produce, it needs to be right.
It's actually a very responsible job, because production manager must also make sure that there's no disruptions in the production process.
Yes.
And because if there are productions, it costs money.
Yes. So which means your raw materials needs to arrive at the correct time. And some people use the JIT system just in case.
Yeah.
Right? So ensuring that the raw materials arrive timeously so that the production process is not halted at all.
And I would add at the correct time, but also in the correct quantity.
At the correct place.
At the correct.
And especially in South African road context, there's so much traffic in Cape Town and many other provinces. I would just give a tip or an advice. Please, a day before. Otherwise, we're going to have a production that is halted. And time is money.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just thinking of sometimes these raw materials, they fall off the truck. And that's where people say they got a bargain.
Yes.
Somebody's losing out from you buying those goods that fall off the truck.
And that's why businesses must have insurance. And the grade 11 learners will learn about that next year in grade 12. Insurance is important. If that truck load falls off, it's open for the public. You will see, I'm sure many of you have seen on social media, a truck losing its carriage and people just running after whatever it is.
People go crazy when the SA Brewery's truck
Most definitely.
overturns.
Most
then they go
definitely.
to Kira.
Yeah.
Mrs. Pirang, how many production systems do we have? Because there's quite a lot of confusion. Let's put it out there.
There's only 2.
Are there only 2?
Just 2.
Okay.
Just 2.
And those 2, which are they?
Continuous and interrupted. So continuous consists out of 1. And interrupted consists out of 2.
Okay, but you're now a step ahead of me because I need to remember this.
Okay?
And I want our learners also to remember it. So there's only 2.
2.
So the one is continuous.
Yes.
And the other one is interrupted. So it's CI.
CI, definitely.
Or IC.
I see.
Do you see?
I see.
What?
I see you.
Right,
With
learners,
that-
so the I is for interrupted.
And
And the
C,
second one is for
continuous.
Or you can say uninterrupted.
That could also go?
That could also go. They can't mark it wrong, eh?
No, I don't think so.
No. So, but let's stick to interrupted and continuous. Right. So the continuous one. There's only one.
Mass production, which means identical products. We are producing bulk,
In large quantities.
large. So we're talking about tens and hundreds of thousands of the same product. And each of them having to have the exact same quality.
Yeah. They must be standardized.
Yes, so many of them go through conveyor belt systems, and because of the large quantity, the unit price is then kept to a low.
Absolutely, yeah.
But the machines, the capital outlay to purchase those machines are extremely expensive. I'm sure Mr. Momberg would like to explain the Coke example that you did offline earlier.
Now I was going to ask you, have you ever been to the Coke factory?
No, not at all.
There's one here in Cape Town, the Vanguard area. Please, if you do have time, take your learners to that factory. They do invite scholars to attend. And learners, I was just explaining to Mrs. Perang that at the Coke factory, when they're on the production line, it's almost in the form of a conveyor belt. Now, my drawing is not at the best, but it looks something like this. And they would start here. And obviously, they would start putting the bottles in here. And then the bottle will move along, and it'll get maybe water. And here it will get syrup. And here it will get the secret ingredient. And here it will get the gas. And then here it will get the top. And here it will get the label. And here it comes out the system. And in that process, they've only got about 4 people standing with their hands in their pockets. They don't even touch the whole process.
Earning money. And all they've got to do is to quality assure. To make sure that the bottles are filled with water at least almost full. To make sure that the sugar doesn't fall besides the bottle, but into the bottle. Otherwise, that's wastage.
It's wastage. And they've got to do that. And then you earlier indicated to make sure that the top is on.
Yes.
And that is their job. And within 1 hour, they produce 20,000, 1.5 liters. 20,000. Now just think of what happens in 10 hours. It's 200,000.
Yes.
In 20 hours, now, I mean, those machines will run 24 hours a day. It's 400,000. Not even a day.
That's why people work shifts.
And that is the mass production you were referring to.
Yes.
And they've seen an example of some products in a can being produced in mass via the conveyor belt. The batch production is part of
Interrupted.
The I.
Yes, interrupted. So these 2 types of production systems used in interrupted production, which is batch, as seen on your screen. And this basically zooms into a variety of goods with its different requirements. So a batch, for example, Pick n Pay or your Checkers produces rolls. You get different types of rolls or different kinds of rolls. Coney rolls, hamburger rolls, hot dog rolls. So every time the batch would change based on its requirements.
That's correct. And the next step is the job production. What does that entail?
A matric ball dress. It's specific.
It's a one of a kind.
Yes, so it's specific, many a times tailor-made. It's suited for the particular customer's specific needs, your specific color, your specific design, and it's made for you and you alone. And many of you will be spending thousands of rands on that one-of-a-kind production. If I can mention an example, I don't know if you know this pop star, but Lady Gaga wore a meat dress. Yes, I see that right? Meat. Made for her body.
Yeah.
That is job production, made from meat. Instead of cotton or silk, she chose meat.
How gross can you get? How gross can you? But now, what is this thing about women doesn't want to wear the same thing like another woman?
We're all unique, and that's characteristic to job production. It's a unique item that was made to suit the particular requirements, so it's one of a kind. And also, it is many a times very expensive.
Yeah.
Very expensive.
Because it cannot be produced in mass. This, the unit cost of that product cannot be made up by making other products also.
Why? Because people tailor make it. thinking of Louis Vuitton and Dior and all these designer brands, sometimes when we watch these gala meets or award ceremonies, you have your Beyoncés and your Justin Biebers walking there, but every stitch on the item that they are wearing was hand stitched. Hence the item being so expensive.
And so the designer's name on the product actually adds value to that product.
Yes.
The only designer clothes that I wear is Mr. Price.
Oh, perhaps Mr. Momberg needs a slight upgrade to it, because we can find lots of mass-produced T-shirts.
Okay. But other examples of job production would be oil paintings.
What about, what's the painting?
The Jacob Zuma one.
Oh, there's a Da Vinci painting as well. Sometimes we find people alongside the street making unique items.
Absolutely.
Selling them necklaces or items that could be hung against the walls inside your door as decor.
Yeah.
So that's a unique design. They done it with their hands. Lots of time and effort went into that, and definitely a skill that they have.
I went to school now this morning, Valiersdorp, and they've got a picture of Wade, is it Wade, the runner?
Van Niekerk.
Van Niekerk. And that was a designer product, because that's one of a kind. I've never ever seen a picture like that. I think it could have been made by these students. And that was quite cool.
And we see so many of those soccer stars, Lionel Messi and CR7, where they have this golden boots and stuff made specifically for them, their body, their feet. And it's auctioned off sometimes to raise lots of money.
Right, Elena, so that's the different production systems, interrupted and continuous. And there's some examples. Now, the production cost. Obviously, we've spoken about production all often now, but production entails money.
Definitely.
Money is involved, and quite a lot of money. Calculating the cost of these products is important.
To determine whether we're feasible or not. Because I cannot make something if I'm not going to make money. I need to make money. That's why I'm in business. And from that, whether you said, Mr. Momberg, converting all of that in order, all of those raw materials and inputs so that I can make an output. But before I determine the price of that, I need to ensure that the price that I attach to the particular product is actually going to make me a profit.
Okay. Talking about production costs, we've got a video for you, learners. But before we play that video, we also got it available on a QR code. Now, I'm sure you've heard about the QR code already. You've got to download it from the Play Store, the QR code app. And then, all you need, if you can just have an overhead shot there, all we need to do is once you've downloaded the QR code scanner, you just need to capture it, open the browser, and then we have a
fixed and variable costs. By the end of this video, you should be able to define and identify examples of fixed and variable costs for businesses.
So
what is a fixed cost? Well, a fixed cost is a cost that does not change with output, and by output we mean use. So what does that actually mean? Well, these are operating costs at a business.
So, learners, that's one way of accessing the video on production costs.
let's find cost-efficient ways to do that.
Okay.
So if I'm the teacher, I'm going to use my QR code and I'm going to access the YouTube clip, but share it.
Yeah.
So
And
to ensure all my learners actually has access to that video, I'm going to download the app, share it, and ensure to share it with all the learners so that they have access to these videos.
Yeah. So it's important, and once it's shared, learners can watch it anywhere, anytime, any place.
While washing the dishes.
Sitting in a taxi?
During break times?
While falling asleep in church?
Ooh.
Let's just see quickly if we can access this video on production cost.
जिसकी बात हम बाद में करेंगे पहले हम इसमें जो चीजें सीखी हैं उनको पहले यूज किए हैं फिर की फैक्टर की बात करेंगे एक छोटा सा पॉइंट लेकिन मैं और बता दूं जो कि हमें क्वेश्चन सॉल्व करते वक्त बड़ा हेल्प करेगा यहाँ पे मैंने नोटिस कर लिया कि सारे के सारे फार्मूले कहीं ना कहीं पीवी रेशियो
And then just good afternoon to Makapula Secondary School and also Groenvlei. You are noted. Welcome and stay tuned in.
Okay, let's see quickly if we can access that video on YouTube.
Fixed and variable costs. By the end of this video, you should be able to define and identify examples of fixed and variable costs for businesses. So what is a fixed cost? Well, a fixed cost is a cost that does not change with output, and by output we mean use. So what does that actually mean? Well, these are operating costs that a business may have that will actually remain the same no matter how much they are used. So these are costs that it doesn't matter how many times you use them, you'll still pay the same amount of money out. That's why they're called a fixed cost. So let's look at an example. What would be all of the fixed costs of a shoe shop? Pause the video while you jot down some answers. Some of the possible answers that you should have come up with would have been rent, because it doesn't matter whether no customers come in or 1 million customers come in, you will still pay the same amount of rent, which might be, for example, £1,000 a month. Salaries may have been an example of a fixed cost, because once again, if I am going to pay £12,000 a year to you to work for me, it doesn't matter whether you serve 1 million customers or no customers, I still have to pay you that set amount of £12,000. Insurance would be the same, because you pay your insurance premium, and it doesn't matter how many times in that year you make a claim on your insurance, you will pay the same amount of money. And broadband would be another classic example of a fixed cost, because most broadband packages now are what they call unlimited. So this means that you can use it as much as you want for the same fee that you pay. So the opposite of a fixed cost is a variable cost, and these are costs that do change with output, or use, as I like to think about it. So what do we mean by that? Well, these are operating costs that a business may have that will change with use. So the more that they're going to be used, the more they're going to cost you. Again, let's stick with our shoe shop idea. Make a list of all the variable costs that you think the shoe shop will have. Pause the video now. So, what should you come up with? The variable cost a shoe shop might have could be stock, buying in more shoes, because if they sell more shoes, they need to buy more shoes. So that's going to be a variable cost. Utilities, which we mean by gas, water and electricity. Again, if you open the shop for more hours, it's going to be assumed that you're going to use more utilities, so it's going to cost you more money. Wages, because wages are paid per hour. If I employ you to work for more hours, then it's going to cost me more money. So more use of you is going to cost me more money. So that's going to be an increase in wages, and that will be a variable cost. And the telephone, so your landline telephone is deemed to be a variable cost typically, because the more telephone calls you make, the more it will cost you. Of course, this can depend on whether you've got a fixed tariff, where you've got, for example, unlimited minutes to make a call. However, for business purposes, assume that a telephone is going to be a variable cost, unless you explain otherwise. Now, lastly, what you might find on this topic is that people will ask you to calculate total costs. Well, the word total means add it all together, and don't get confused when you see the word total costs. All it means is your fixed costs plus your variable costs. Learn that formula, know it, and you'll do well in your business exams. Okay, let's have a quick recap. You should now be able to define the term fixed and variable costs, and you should be able to give examples of fixed and variable costs. Most importantly, make sure you remember that you need to apply your answers to the given case study that you might be given, or the company you're given in any question. So think of fixed and variable costs that will relate to that business organisation.
Thanks for checking out the Be Business Be YouTube channel.
I would just like to remind the learners tuned in that it's not necessary to copy the notes. Mr. Momberg, is it possible for you to share the email address so that the educators could perhaps send you an email or contact the district office to get the notes?
Yeah, that was particularly in response to Makula, is it Makupula Secondary School? If the educator could send me an email at ldmomberg@gmail.com, then I will gladly forward you a copy of not only the core notes, telematics resource booklet notes, but also this presentation. They can also get it from us. Learners, so yeah, you've watched that video now on production cost. Just two concepts I picked up. Under variable costs, they spoke about stock. We would talk about raw materials.
Yes.
And then they also had utilities. We would refer to that as electricity and water. Okay.
We also have Valhalla High Secondary tuned in. Good afternoon. Grade 11s, you are noted, as well as in Limpopo province, Nalatsana High School.
Wow. That's cool to hear that learners all over the country are getting the benefit of this telematics presentation.
I think perhaps, Mr. Momberg, we should just recap to the learners the fixed costs, variable costs, and total costs.
Okay, would you like to go over fixed
Yes.
cost?
Fixed cost remains the same no matter the quantity you produce. Variable costs changes or fluctuates based on the amount you produce. And then variable costs plus fixed costs totals up to be total cost.
That's actually a formula you're giving them now, eh?
Yes.
In order to calculate that,
Perhaps
is important.
you should write it down for them.
Maybe we should write it down. An important formula, and you use the abbreviations, internationally accepted abbreviations.
Yes.
TC would be total cost.
Top cat.
Top. It's equal to FC plus VC.
That's correct.
Okay, Lena, so that formula is a formula we're going to use when we do different calculations. Another formula we're going to use, Mrs. Parang, is unit cost.
Yes.
And that is simply total cost divided by output.
So what is unit cost, Mr. Momberg?
It's actually the cost of one article. So if we
What's an article, Mr. Momberg?
one unit, one product.
One product.
So if we produce, say, 5,000 products, and it costs us, say, 100,000, we can actually calculate how much it costs to produce one article. Because that will allow us to determine what the selling price is going to be.
Yes, because we need to know that we cannot make a loss.
Absolutely. And so we're going to come to that later on. Ms. Parang, just some of the examples of variable costs. You want to go through them quickly?
Raw materials, as Mr. Momberg mentioned, utilities, electricity, wages of employee.
What about telephone?
Telephone, yes, definitely data as well, because it's based on the consumption.
Yeah.
So the more I consume, the more my bill will be.
Yeah.
And the more the total variable cost will add up to. So, for example, during December periods, many of our factory outlets closes down for 3 weeks so that people can be on holiday. So the water, electricity and telephone bill will be at the all-time low throughout the 12 months. It would be, December would be its lowest because there's nobody there.
Same would apply to the fuel cost, eh?
Yes.
That would also be a variable one.
Yes.
Okay, if we can look at some of the examples of fixed cost.
Stays the same no matter what. So there we have insurance, our salaries of the employees, and then definitely if we have rent to pay, that will remain the same, etc., etc. So those are, no matter if you are there or not there,
Still got to pay.
still got to pay.
And that's what's called
Fixed.
fixed. Stays the same.
Stays the same.
Cool. Now, to calculate fixed cost, how do we calculate fixed cost?
Fixed costs, adding variable costs. No, it's adding all your fixed costs together.
Adding all your fixed items together.
So
Your
we
fixed
will
cost
need to
items.
determine then what is fixed costs
Absolutely.
before we can get to the total of fixed
Absolutely.
costs.
Because very often they mix it.
Yes.
They give you the variable cost and the fixed cost all jumbled up.
So here's
And
the
so you've got to take it
cognitive
out.
question which says differentiate, distinguish between fixed costs and variable costs.
Absolutely. And so, colleagues, learners is quite a simple calculation. Fixed cost, you know the abbreviation. It's FC. And so how do you calculate fixed cost? You add up all the fixed cost items. And so it's important that you know what are the fixed cost items. So you've got to add your rental, rates and taxes remains the same. You've got to pay it. And your insurance, if those are the three that's given, you add it up and 2,800 would be your fixed cost. Now, Ms. Parang, you would do the same for your variable cost, eh?
But I obviously first need to decide on which of the item list is actually variable costs so that I can add them up together. Over there we have on the screen raw materials, wages and electricity because these fluctuate on a month-to-month basis.
Right, and we had that formula earlier on. Total cost would be equal to fixed cost plus variable cost. And now we calculated fixed cost as being 2,800. We calculated variable cost as being 2,500. So the total cost of production is 5,300. Please don't forget to put the R in front of the amount to indicate that you're talking about money.
Mr. Momberg, so how is this actually marked? Because I know many of our business studies learners have mathematics or as what they say, pure maths. So some of them would just calculate this out of their head and then write a total answer. Would our learners still be getting full marks?
They will get full marks. Normally we'll give them the full marks if they got the answer right. But you know what could happen?
What?
You could make a mistake along the line. So, for example, you could get that right, and we'll give you a mark for that. We'll give you a mark for that, and we'll give you a mark for that. So, that will be the 4 marks.
Okay.
Now, for example, say you want to take your chance, and you're going to say, right, the answer is 5,100. And you only write down 5,100. You will get 0.
Because there's nothing to go back.
There is nothing to show the paper trail. How did you get to it? Okay. Now, even if you write down the formula, you'll get 1 mark there. And you write this down, you get 1 mark there. But you did the calculation incorrect. Here you wrote 5,100, but you've written it like this, you will get 2 marks.
Okay.
Can you see the difference?
I understand.
So, when you must do a calculation, always the rule is, always write down the formula, substitute, and do the calculation. In the event of you making a mistake or an error, you'll still be credited for the first part of your answer. Does that make sense?
That makes sense.
Cool. We've got Ebenezer Majombozo High School from Eastern Cape.
Welcome.
I'd like to welcome them, the learners and the teachers. It's great knowing that we've got learners from all over the province and the country listening. Tune in. Okay, so total cost learners, simple calculation, fixed cost plus variable cost. Now your friend, unit cost. The unit cost is another word for it. It's also called average cost.
That's correct. But I think the learners should actually, if they have the notes with them right now, write the AKA, average cost, also known as, it's a synonym. So sometimes in business studies, I find as a teacher that there's 2 words, but they mean the same thing. Right? So sometimes in the question paper, they refer to it as average cost, but in class, the teacher was explaining unit cost.
Yes.
So let's not create a confusion it is the exact same thing. So if I were you, I'd take my pen or my highlighter right now and link the two up together and say it's the exact same thing, aka also known as.
And thank you for that. Ms. Parang, you explained earlier that unit cost is the cost of producing one product?
One article.
One article.
Yes.
And then the formula we use to calculate unit cost is quite simple. Unit cost equals total cost divided by output. Now we know how to get total cost.
Yes,
Remember we said total cost is fixed cost plus variable cost.
that's correct.
Output would be just the level of production.
So which means we're actually counting how many goods we are producing. And this is where it becomes so important for a production system such as mass production. There's so many, it's a large quantity of goods being produced, hence the unit costs would be low. But with batch and with job production, there's not a lot of units being produced. For example, with job production, in many cases, it's only one, hence the unit cost price being extremely high.
Extremely high. Cool. Right though. So let's look at an example of how do we calculate unit cost. Now, remember we already calculated total cost, and we said that total cost was 5,300. And here they use an example. What if they produced 1,000 loaves and the total cost is 5,300? Then the unit cost would obviously be R5.30. Now, if you don't believe us, we can do the calculation on the... Would you like to do that calculation, Ms. Parang?
Right, so we have 5,300 divided by 1,000 equals to 5.3.
5.3, and that would be R5.30. Now, obviously, learners, the business cannot sell that product for R5.30.
Never. Never, Mr. Momberg, never. How can we?
Yes, so they need to make a
Profit.
So that unit cost helps them to determine, okay, what is the baseline, what is the break-even cost, and how much do we need to add in order to make a profit.
And some of our accounting students, because I know some learners have business studies and accounting, they normally refer to it as a profit markup, a profit percentage added to that particular unit cost. Also from my side, I'd like to say hello to Forest Heights and Lotus High. You are noted and very welcome.
And there was also a school from the Eastern Cape, Malcolmus High School. Very good afternoon to you, learners and educators. Now, selling price and calculation of profit. How do we get to the selling price?
Selling price is what I see in the shop, but of course the SARS still needs to add the 15% of VAT. So many a times it's included. So the selling price is what we see on the shelves when going shopping. It's on, I don't want to call it a billboard, but on the advertising boards when you go through a drive-through or you in the shop or in a catalog, for example, where you can see that's the price, $9.99, but they don't do $9.99 anymore. They do $9.95.
Is it $9.95? Okay, because they don't use that 1 cent anymore.
That's correct.
And do they still use the 5 cents?
Man, Mr. Momberg, I don't think that 5 cent change. I'm just thinking now in general. How many people just walk out without those 5 cents? And sometimes
even 10 cents, eh?
Yeah. That company is, if you accumulate that over...
After the end of a day, quite a lot.
Over a year?
Even more. Ms. Parang, total revenue. If we talk about total revenue, what calculations are involved?
Our selling price.
A selling price times the
Total units
total
produced.
units or the quantity that we are going to sell.
Definitely.
So total revenue is the selling price times the number of units you are going to sell. So that will determine the amount of money you're going to get in. So just remember that formula. Total revenue equals selling price times quantity sold.
I just want to point out, sometimes we make a certain amount of items, but that doesn't necessarily mean we do sell all.
So it's actually the total sold.
That's correct.
Very often when you go to the shop, you'll see in the morning, they may have 200 loaves of bread. And when they close at night, they've got 10 left. So they only sold 190. Profit. I think in a capitalist society, that is the driving force behind a business. Eh?
From the area code I come from, they say cash is king.
Cash is king. So how do you calculate profit?
Profit is definitely your total revenue minus your total cost. So the items that I sold with my profit markup or my profit margin minus my total cost, which comprised of my variable cost and my fixed costs, and that will give me whatever's left over would be my profit.
Yeah, so from what we've done so far, we've shown you how to calculate total cost, which is fixed cost plus variable cost.
That's correct.
We've showed you how to calculate total revenue, which is selling price times quantity sold.
Unit cost we also did.
Unit cost we also did. So in order to determine profit, we need to take our total revenue minus our total cost. Now, Ms. Perang, we just had a question here from, it was 9856. When calculating unit cost, you need total cost and output. And so the question is, how do we calculate output? Now, fortunately, you don't have to calculate output. They will give you output. Similarly, in our example, remember when we said total cost was 5,300, but output was 100 loaves of bread. So it will be given to you in order to do the calculation. We've got the Nompukuku Combined School, and they also from the Eastern Cape, and they say they are tuned in, and they're enjoying this session tremendously. The opposite of profit is loss.
I don't think anyone wants to hear that word.
But we still need to know, when does a loss occur in a business?
It is definitely when your total cost, the cost of making it, is definitely more than the total revenue, which means your variable cost and your fixed cost together is definitely more than what you are selling.
Okay, thank you for that. Now, Ms. Perang, if you could just conclude with this consolidation question. It says the table below lists the variable and fixed cost items that were used to produce 2,000 shirts. So, where was it? 9856, they will give you your output. So the selling price of the shirt is 600 Rand. And so there they give you your cost items, rent 60,000, rates and taxes 25, raw materials 500,000, wages 200,000, and electricity.
I think, Mr. Mamba, if we can just pause there, that's more or less how it comes in a examination, section B type question, because they will give you all the information, and from there you would need to decipher or calculate, where you have to distinguish, differentiate, or calculate any of the calculations explained today.
Because of time constraints, maybe you should just go through that list. Rental would be?
Rent is definitely fixed.
Fixed. Rates and taxes?
It's a variable.
Rates and taxes also fixed. Remember, you need to pay your rates and taxes irrespective of whether you produce or not.
I'm thinking of my city council bill, and the taxes is in there.
Yeah, but it's in with your, it's in with your water and your electricity.
That's why I noted
businesses they actually bill them separately for rates and taxes because it remains the same. The amount remains the same. Insurance?
Stays the same, fixed.
Raw materials?
Fluctuates, variable.
Wages?
Fluctuates, variable.
And electricity?
Fluctuates, variable.
Great stuff. And so you add up, and so you calculate fixed cost, calculate variable cost, calculate total cost, unit cost, and then the one item we didn't get to was the break-even point. Then so there are your variable cost, and you've got your fixed cost. You add them together, you get your fixed cost There's a variable cost. You add them together, you get a total cost. To get a unit cost would be total cost divided by units produced, and that would be your unit cost. Mrs. Parang, that time just flew out. I can't believe it that it's the end of the session already. It's like we just started a few minutes ago.
Definitely.
Let me thank you for your contribution. It was very, very entertaining and very useful having you here as an experienced educator, and we really appreciate all your effort you put into the PowerPoint and also your contribution today. Learners, to you and to your teachers, wherever you are all over the country, we would like to thank you for tuning in. Please take note of our next presentation, and we're looking forward to seeing you again when we do our next presentation. If you must still travel home, please travel safely, and best of luck for the June exams. And until we meet again, goodbye.